Hey there, I know this is a long unit. You are doing so good with getting through all this stuff. We are moving on to our next section here with equations of circles. This should be pretty straightforward. You're going to see a lot of algebra in this one. The only thing with geometry here is really knowing area and the circumference formulas and kind of applying that. But then we're going to be doing a lot of stuff with algebra and equations and things, okay? So the standard form of an equation of a circle, so this is important for you to get written down, um, is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So there's a couple key pieces to this. The center of our circle is going to be represented by the h and the k. So if it's in there as like x minus 5, the h value is 5. If it was y plus 5, the h value is, or x plus 5, then the h value is negative. So we'll get into that in a second. And that is equal to r squared. So the radius is going to be represented by just r. So in the equations, you're going to see it written as r squared. But when we need to kind of pull out and figure out what the radius is, we're going to take the square root of that. Okay. So this is what it looks like. So we're going to identify where that hk is. We can place that on the graph if we really wanted to. And then from there, we would place at least one other point on the circle xy, and that distance is going to be represented by this. Okay, it's essentially the distance formula. Okay, and this is it's representing the distance from any point on the circle to that specific center. Excuse me, and that's going to be represented by the radius. Okay, excuse me. All right, so let's go ahead and use that knowledge and find the equation of a circle. And I'm telling you what the center is. It's 5 comma negative 2, and the radius is 7. So the first thing I know is that the standard form is the x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So we're going to substitute our values in. Okay, so it's going to be x minus 5 squared plus y minus negative 2 squared equals 7 squared. Now we're going to go ahead and simplify everything. If you can simplify, simplify. So when the negative negative in the y there is going to become a plus 2, and 7 squared is just going to be written out as 49. Okay, so that's our standard form. So from there, I can ask you some other questions, such as, what is the circumference of this circle? Or what is the area of that circle? Well, I know that the radius is 7, and that's kind of really what I need to pull from that. And so the circumference is represented by 2 pi r, or pi d. And so if the radius is 7, it would be 14 pi. The area formula is pi r squared. You may write these two formulas down on your cheat sheet. The circumference equals 2 pi r, and area equals pi r squared. But in this one here, the radius is 7. So the area would be 49 pi. That's the exact area. So if I'm ever asking for something exact area, I want it in terms of pi. If I just ask for area and such and I don't specify if I want an exact or not, you can go ahead and give me the decimal answers, okay? Okay, so here's our next example. What is the standard equation of the circle with a center at 1, negative 3 and passes through the point 2, 2? So the problem here is I don't know what the radius is. So our first step is to find the radius. So what I need to do is find the distance from the center to the point. I know that point is on the circle, so we're going to use the distance formula. And just to remind you, we're going to do x minus x1, or x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. So it doesn't matter the order. 1 minus 2 and negative 3 minus 2. 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5. Square them and add them. We should get 26. So the radius represents the square root of 26. But when I go to write the standard equation of this, keep in mind that we're going to be taking whatever the radius is and squaring it. And so when I square a square root, I just get back whatever's underneath. So I have x minus 1 squared plus y plus 3 squared, and the square root of 26, when I square it, is just going to be the number 26. Okay? All right, let's do a couple more examples. We got 2 more coming. So when you make a phone call on a cell phone, the tower receives and transmits a phone call. Transmits the call. A way to monitor the range of a cell tower system is to use equations of circles. Suppose the equation x minus 7 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 64 represents the position and the transmission range of a cell tower. What is the graph that shows the position and range of the tower? So essentially we're taking our equation of the circle and we are graphing it. The first thing I want to do is identify my key pieces. I want to know what's my center and what's my radius, and that's what I'm going to use. So looking at this a little bit closer, I know that that represents h, this number represents k, and this represents r squared. Keeping in mind though, x minus 7, negative 7 is not h. The radius is going to be the opposite. So essentially take like x minus 7, set it equal to 0 and solve for x. Or y plus 2 and set it equal to 0 and solve for y. and that's going to be your h and your k. So what I end up with is that the radius is at 7, -2, and then if I take the square root of 64, I get the number 8. So what I'm going to do is use that now to plot points and create a circle. So the first is going to be my center. My center is found at 7, -2. So I'm going to count over 7 down 2. Now mine is counting by 2, so keep that in mind. But if when you draw yours, if you want to do a little bit differently, that's a-okay. So when I do these, my advice is to go through and plot at least 4 points from the circle. And plot the easiest 4 points, meaning go directly above 8 spots. Okay, because that's going to be the length of 8 if I were to count up. Or go directly to the right, bottom, and left. Okay, I know that one's a little bit off. I did the best that I can, okay? And then after you have plotted at least those 4 points, do the best that you can with drawing a circle that goes around that, okay? I know nobody's circle is going to be perfect, and that's okay, all right? So when you go to do these, just do the best you can, and you kind of find the one that's closest to you when you're doing multiple choice, all right? Last problem that we have, if I'm going to go and write the circle given the ends of the diameter. Okay, so when I give you the ends of the diameter, that means I don't have the center. But what I do know is that the diameter is exact, or the center is exactly in the middle of my diameter. So to find the center, I'm going to use my midpoint formula because those are endpoints that are both on the circle, and I need the middle point. So I'm going to take the two endpoints and I'm going to find the x values and the y values. So I'm going to find their averages. So 2 + 2 divided by 2, -1 + 3 divided by 2. You should know this midpoint formula. You also used this in the last part of Unit 7, so it doesn't go away. So 2 + 2 divided by 2 is 2, and -1 + 3 divided by 2 is 1. So the center is 2, 1. Well, now I need to find the radius. I know the diameter, but I need the radius. So you can do two things. You can find the length of the diameter and cut it in half, or you can find the distance from the center to one of those points. And that's what I did, okay? I'm using the distance formula, and I'm going to do 2 minus 2. So I'm using this first one here, okay? 2 minus 2 squared plus 1 plus 1 squared. And when I simplify that, I get the square root of 4, or 2. Okay, so again, you could have found the diameter. If you found the diameter, I mean the distance from 2, -1 to 2, 3, you would have found that the distance would have been 4, so the radius was 2. Okay, and then from there, we're going to substitute our values into our standard form, and this is your final equation, x minus 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared. That's coming from here, okay, which is our center, and that equals the radius squared, or 2 squared, which is 4. Okay, go ahead and get started on that practice and let us know if you need any help.